Okay, welcome. Today's Monday, August 9th. Welcome to another installment of the Strategy Tech and Food Show. This is Jonathan Banks. This is the restaurant focused technology show where we talk with leading industry stakeholders and restaurant operators themselves. This show is brought to you by the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Program. And I'm your host, Jonathan Banks. In a few moments, we'll be talking with Joy Altman, Managing Director of Pro Bono Advisory at Hands On Twin Cities. But before that, we're just going to get into a few tidbits of news to share with you all. As you know, this program is sponsored by the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Program. We've helped over 50 restaurants in this program. We currently have 18 restaurants enrolled and receiving support at no cost to them through the St. Paul Restaurant Resiliency Program. So if you want to learn more about that, go to ncxt.co and get your restaurant signed up to be part of the program. Here's some interesting news about the program. This fall, the program is going to be taking a very extreme focus on St. Paul's cultural corridors. And so if you have a restaurant or know of a restaurant operating one of St. Paul's cultural corridors, please do get them in touch with the program so we can begin working together. And that, focus is really looking at some of the recovery that's happened this year, but also some of the turbulence that we see coming up as well to make sure that restaurants in those corridors really have the opportunity to continue to rebound, grow, and provide stability not only for the folks who work in the restaurant, but also the communities that they're within, bringing that real vibrancy to St. Paul and creating that fabric of cultural fabric of the city. A little bit of news just coming from the city here. Kind of a cool announcement to talk about is that we're seeing that we have some restaurants expanding in the Twin Cities. So we have Bellicor is expanding their bakery into St. Paul in their partnership with the Cooks of Crocus Hill. So this was reported on by Eater Twin Cities. And it's really kind of a cool thing. So this partnership really started during the pandemic, seeing how Cooks of Crocus Hill and Bellicor Bakery could work together. And now this is continuing on. August 11th, you'll be able to go to Cook's flagship location on 877 Grand Avenue and start experiencing the Bellicor experience there with their bakery moving in there. So go ahead and check that out. Gavin Kaysen and Diane Moore are making the move and bringing their bakery to Cooks of Crocus Hill in St. Paul this August 11th. So go check that out. And also more news around restaurants and the pandemic. So it looks like it's probably a good idea for restaurants, again, to look at how they're going to facilitate some more outdoor dining going into the winter. It's a big focus, of course, for us here in colder climate in St. Paul. We're seeing some interesting things about the pandemic as it continues on. We're seeing that a lot of government and organizations are putting in place their own mandates, whether it's for vaccines or for masks. We saw that in New York that they require vaccination for indoor dining. So that's something that's happening in New York. But here, in St. Paul, we are requiring masks or face coverings in city-controlled properties. So that's not impacting private businesses, except for the fact that the city is strongly recommending that businesses institute indoor face covering mandates as well. So that's something to look for as the pandemic wanes on and as we look into going into winter. A little predictor that we've been looking at as far as the impact of Delta variant in particular and how it might really spread here is there's some interesting news coming out of Iceland saying that over 90% of those who are 16 years old or older have gotten at least one dose of their vaccine, but they're still seeing a really big spike in COVID cases there. So they're experiencing that spike, and as we know, this is going to move towards the United States, and we're seeing a spike here, so we can expect that to continue on. The positive note is very few deaths have happened because of this in Iceland. Actually, only one since May, and so you can just think about taking this information and using that for your restaurant, and thinking about how you want to prepare for this winter. It's going to be serious. We'll want to follow a similar playbook that we did last winter, making sure that we are really focusing on to-go, delivery, outdoor, diversifying the way that you have revenue coming into the restaurant. That's all going to be very important. We're not going back to the way things were just quite yet. So thank you all for listening to that news. If you have any news that you want to share with us here, please, you can go to the email restaurants@ncxt.co, and we can put some of your news up on the show for us to talk about here today. So let's go on and talk to Joy. Joy, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jonathan. I'm great. I actually got a chance to check out a couple of St. Paul spaces this weekend. So I was at Black Sheep Pizza, and then right around the corner was at Tin Whiskers Brewery. So really nice St. Paul offerings, and happy to be there.
Well, that's great. I love both of those places, and Tin Whiskers has been part of the program. They did a lot of marketing work with us here in the program. So we got to meet them, and I know they've got a ton of different varieties of seltzers and beers and all of that. What was the favorite one that you tried?
I had the pink lemonade, and it had a little touch of vanilla, so that was really good. And then I was with it. Yeah, it was smooth. It was really great. It was surprising. And my friend had the seltzer with the gummy bears on the bottom, so that was fun. A fun little treat at the end of her glass. So yeah, all very fun flavors.
The gummy bear seltzer.
I know, right?
Didn't they used to put like gummy worms in?
I think there was something that we saw that also had gummy worms.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, Joy, you're the managing director, pro bono advisory programs at Hands On Twin Cities. You have been doing this since May, and before that you were a consultant with Hands On Twin Cities as well, and you've been involved in events and projects and doing all sorts of work like that in your career. What kind of led you up to working with Hands On Twin Cities?
Yeah, great question. So my previous experience, I had a long standing relationship employment with a local company called Evereve, women's retailer. Learned a lot. When I started, they were very small. They grew while I was there to a great size, and they're still growing. And so I really got my feet wet. I got to know a lot about business, starting from a small and going to big. I left there on a mission to work in nonprofit. So I spent some time at a nonprofit here in the Twin Cities called Matter. I was there for 2 years. Right in the middle of the pandemic. It was a great learning of what nonprofit is, how they serve communities here, and how they also serve abroad globally. And then I saw this role for the consultant job at Hands On Twin Cities, and it really married my love of business and nonprofit and giving back. And so in this pro bono world, that really is what we do. We are able to match corporate partners with either small businesses and nonprofits, and provide really expertise guidance in projects that they are looking for, because they're all what it's like, understaffed, under capacity, but really under resourced, actually over capacity, sorry. And matching those two groups together has really seen a lot. I've seen a lot of, great things that can come out of it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely have too. I'm not sure I don't think we've talked about this before, but did you know that we have Land O'Lakes professionals volunteering their time directly to the restaurants in St. Paul?
Yeah. I mean, so many companies, Land O'Lakes obviously being one of them. Target is another fantastic partner, Unilever. I mean, so many great businesses right here in our, hometowns have really stepped up for our BIPOC-owned small businesses and nonprofits. So it's been really great to see, what they have to offer. And really, it changes the landscape of what volunteerism looks like. I think in the past, we all had this vision of what a volunteer is. They come into a facility, they do some real good work, they paint a wall, they pack a meal, they do some of those things that are just necessary that nonprofits need. But going a little deeper into this pro bono, this skills-based volunteering is really what it's called. It's emerging in the Twin Cities as being, kind of a deeper engagement for employees to understand what these small businesses and nonprofits go through on a daily basis.
Who are you solving these problems for? I hear you're working with employees,
Great
you're working
question.
with businesses, you're working with some, you're working with, restaurants, others. Who would you say is the key party who you're trying to solve the problem for?
Yeah, great question. So the people that we are serving are nonprofits and small BIPOC-owned small businesses. Those are really the two largest groups that we've seen pro bono work in and be very, very successful. The other side of that, the people who we help them serve are corporations. So our targets are Boston Scientifics, Thrivent Financial. You mentioned Land O'Lakes. So we really act as that intermediary. So we are bringing those two entities together of the people that need their problem solved. General Mills has been a great partner. They, we're looking at BIPOC-owned businesses. They were also looking at women-owned. They were looking at food-owned. So they really kind of ran the gamut and wanted to make sure that net was cast wide, but really focused on the folks that needed the most help. So we've seen, lots of food-based businesses, small businesses. We've seen a couple of restaurants. The thing with restaurants is right now they are just so, under-resourced as far as employees. And so we're really trying to be very mindful of their time, because a pro bono project can run as long as 12 weeks. And so we understand that takes a lot of time away from their customers in their actual physical spaces. But yes, we have seen successful restaurant projects as well.
I mean, we might just have to start getting some of these volunteers in the kitchen. I mean, that
Right,
just might have to be what
exactly.
happens to really make this work.
I love that innovative thinking.
I mean, let's go directly to the problem. I mean, we've heard that staffing is really one of the biggest issues right now, and we've done a few segments here about staffing. We've done some design work with restaurants around staffing. We have NoStressHospitality.com, where you can go and find a job description. You can take that job description and you can post it on the Ramsey County Future Finder website to try to attract people. So we've been doing a lot of work with staffing. So maybe we should just talk about getting some of these volunteers.
Maybe I do love a food prep. If I saw a skills-based volunteer of a food prep for like 2 hours, I think maybe that would pique my interest. That's a really great way to think about it.
Yeah, or maybe you can go down to Tin Whiskers and what do you do? Clean out the kegs or something like that. Yeah, there's options. We can talk more about that offline. Maybe we just need to have more of a kind of a design session around this for the fall. Yeah,
I love it.
So talk about some of your solutions. How are you solving the problems? You said you're kind of a matchmaker. Tell us more about how that dynamic works.
Yeah, the great piece is that our corporate partners, they have, a company like Target, they had 600 people sign up to volunteer to do the skills-based volunteer work. Subject matter experts is what we call them. And so we really look at, what they have to offer. What are their capabilities? Marketing, technology, HR, finance, all of the things that we know small businesses desperately are in need of help with sometimes. And so when we look at those capabilities, then we reach out to groups like yours, LEDC, groups like those small business kind of, you were talking about those cultural corridors. reaching out to those kind of communities. And then we ask them, what are you guys looking for? What could be something that you need? And so for instances, we've seen marketing help, we've seen HR help, things like that, finances, getting together supply orders. So really looking at those capabilities that they have, and then matching what are some of those things that you need. And then what we do at Hands On Twin Cities, what we do is we assess those businesses, we ask them those questions about pain points, about things that they're missing, about things they, what's on your wish list. And then we match them to our corporate volunteers, and they come in and work that project with them at a predetermined amount of time. Most projects run up to 12 weeks. So it is a long-standing relationship. These consultants is what we call them. Our volunteers really are immersive with our small businesses and nonprofits, and are able to, ask those hard questions, are really to do a deep dive, do a lot of competitive research, what's happening in the landscape of that business, and then creating what we call a deliverable. What is handed over at the end is either that supply chain, spreadsheet, a pricing model, an org chart, HR manuals. Those are, examples of really great, high quality deliverables we can hand over.
Yeah, and it sounds like all of those things that are kind of like on the to-do list
Yes.
for the proprietary, right? Like, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so many things to get done.
Yes.
Here's my core business, and this falls outside of my core business. But if I don't do this, then my core business is going to fall apart, right? And so y'all can really help out with that.
Yeah, and what we learn and what we know is that our small business leaders, they are dreamers, they are innovators, they are creators, and their strong point might not be marketing, it might not be finance. They've come up with a really great concept for a restaurant, or they're a fantastic chef and so talented, but creating that supply order or managing schedules, that's not always in their strong suit. And so developing those tools and having those resources fully and ready and available to them and built by these Fortune 500 companies has been, in some instances, a game changer. We worked with one food-based business, and they, were buying their supplies at Target. So they would run to Target when they needed some amount. And so really, having them understand, okay, here's the way that you can create, the supply list and diversify and, work smarter, not harder, and things like that. So what we've really grown to love to see these solutions that, these big companies are, producing, but really tailoring them to the small business needs.
And I wonder what these small businesses say once they've gotten the experience to work with you and work with a corporate partner, some of the skills-based volunteers. How do they feel when they're done?
Yeah, we're really fortunate that, our post-project survey process gets the voice of that small business heard. So we are doing a closing call with them. We get to hear about the full experience. We also do an anonymous survey. We want to hear from them unfiltered. And what we've really seen is they've very much benefited from these services provided by these experts. They've really given them time back in their day by creating these finance models, by creating, these marketing logos. And they've also allowed them to focus on the part of the business that they're passionate about, that they are good at, that they, really excel in. And so it really lightens the load for them. And the beautiful part is that we've seen projects that go through with a small business, and then they come back and reapply when, another corporate partner. So we've definitely seen these return places, or these return businesses come back for new functional areas, because like you said, there is a to-do list, there's a checklist of what you need. And we're so happy that we've been able to kind of go through that with them.
Well, and you start to build these relationships, right? And it just becomes not only an enriched relationship, but you can see the business growing. And as let's say I'm the restaurant owner, I know where to go for that next thing on my list, right? I can have my mind at ease because I know that Hands-On Twin Cities is here
Mhm.
to help provide these skills-based volunteers for my
Yeah.
restaurant. So if I'm just, finishing up breakfast this morning, I'm getting prepared for lunch, and I'm looking at my list of things that I need to get done that I'm not going to have time to do, how should I get involved with the skills-based volunteers from Hands-On Twin Cities?
Yeah, we really, we are at and this is a good thing, we are at the mercy of our corporate partners. So when they choose to launch projects and are ready to go, then that's when we, look for our small businesses and nonprofits to participate. So the best thing that you can do is go to our website and at handsontwincities.org, and you can sign up for the newsletter. So it's that footer at the bottom, simple, click and add an email. And so in your inbox, you will see when we launch a program. You can also follow us on all the social medias. We're on all of them at Hands-On Twin Cities. And they can follow there and see, when we launch and announce that definitely we will be there. And Jonathan, I loved when you said relationships. That's really something that we pride ourselves on with our consultants and our small businesses. Our clients is what we call them, that we understand that this relationship is extremely important to start off on a good foot. And because these companies are serving our BIPOC-owned small businesses and our volunteers, some of them, this is the first time that they're really getting exposed to different demographics and different businesses. We really stress that relationship piece, that piece of trust. Like I said, we, know our small business leaders are fierce. They are driven, they're A-type personalities. And then we have our big companies coming in and asking all of these questions, and that can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel sometimes judgmental. And so finding a balance of that and allowing them to learn to trust each other, allowing our small business leaders to be vulnerable, but yet also ensuring that our corporate consultants are empathetic and understand and can really bring themselves to their clients with some grace is a beautiful thing. So we very much stress relationships. So thanks for mentioning that.
Oh yeah, and thanks for explaining how you stress relationships too. I could, there's just an example of some of the partnerships we have is, we'll see that, the volunteers will go to the restaurant on their own, or call them on their own, or just go there to eat or whatever. So, it's really cool. It brings our communities closer together.
Yes.
And I think that the work that y'all are doing is very important. We're going to have to talk more, because I think there's a lot we have in store that we could talk about doing together. But we'll talk more later. Does that sound okay, Joy?
That sounds great. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. It's going to be great. So I appreciate you joining us here today. I've learned so much more about you and Hands-On Twin Cities and your volunteers, corporate partners, the businesses that you're working with. Thanks for sharing all that with us. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. It was so great to be able to share this, and I can't wait to continue to eat out in St. Paul.
We can't wait to have you. That's awesome. So that wraps up another episode of Strategy, Tech, and Food. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be here at the same time next week, 10:30 Central, to talk more about technology, food with the leaders in the industry and restaurant operators themselves. Thanks a lot. We'll see y'all later. Have a great week.